Well, good afternoon, YouTube. This is Chuck, and if you ever wonder what it was like being in the van when it's raining real hard, that'll give you a pretty good idea. Let's if I can get this right. It's Tuesday, June 25th, 2024, about 2:30 in the afternoon, and as you can tell, we got a little bit of a rainstorm going on. This is the what in Arizona we call the Arizona monsoon season, and up here where we're at on top of the Mogollon Rim, it dawns bright and clear every morning, and then during the morning the clouds start building up, and then by mid-afternoon it rains, and so it'll rain briefly pretty hard, and then it'll drift off and start usually marching south, and it'll end up going through the Payson area around 5 o'clock, and by about 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, sometimes it goes down and beats the living daylights out of the metro Phoenix area. And so the morning is bright and clear, and the evenings are lovely, but you can almost always expect that you're going to get a little bit of this afternoon thunderstorm activity, and we had it yesterday as well. This is our, we got up here yesterday. Last night we had some absolutely epic, phenomenal activity. And I don't even know where to begin to tell you all about it, but I guess to start, we had, before I got here yesterday, Paul and Chris were already here. There's 3 of us here. And, well, Paul was sitting outside in his zero grav chair, and it was actually that zero grav chair right there, that teal colored one. But it was back over closer to where his truck is at over there. And anyway, he was sitting in that chair, not paying much attention to anything. And all of a sudden, he got whacked on the back of the head by a piece of wood. And it hit him hard enough it knocked him silly, and actually cut his back of his head a little bit. It actually bled a little bit. And the back of the chair actually took the brunt of it, but a little bit of it hit the back of his head. He wasn't wearing a hat, and he has his head shaved. So anyway, it didn't fall off the tree. We couldn't figure out where it came from, so we kind of knew. And then a little bit later, after I got here, we were sitting out. We had another piece of wood come flying over and land near us, and that one we saw it coming. Well, pieces of wood don't throw themselves. So I'm going to plug a picture of Paul and that little piece of wood there. I'm going to plug it in right here. Well, normally when they throw something at you, they don't hit you, and we were pretty sure that this was probably an accident. That one that hit him probably didn't mean to, and it was probably a little one. When that second piece of wood got thrown, we started asking, hey, who's doing this? And we got a little name back, Raren. Well, we know Raren. Raren's about 7 years old now, and Raren's either Rikey's son or her little brother. We're not 100% sure which, and they've never clarified it with us, but Raren's a member of the 3rd generation of family group that we know here. So that was kind of the first thing that happened, and Paul's going to take that home as a souvenir. And they're not infallible. They threw something at him, actually hit him, and he's after he realized what happened, he thought it was all pretty cool. Well, later on, we'll fast forward till last evening. Last evening, it rained pretty good yesterday afternoon here as well, and there, if you hear the thunder in the background. By the way, let me show you, spin you around here and show you one other thing. The old flapper, I got him a new bed, and it takes up a little less room than his old bed, and he seems to like it. But you can see he's got kind of a distressed look on his face, and he don't like the lightning and thunder much. So he's wadded up in the corner, little ball back in the corner of that, underneath my kitchen desk there, and that's kind of his house now. And he's he's not really loving life right now. He don't like big noises, and he doesn't like thunder, and we got lightning banging around us pretty good here. So anyway, moving right along. Yesterday evening, when the sun started going down, it started getting down to what we call the witching hour, when it starts getting dark. Well, I look across the way, and by golly, I see a figure standing in there, standing between a gap in some trees. Well, there was the three of us here were sitting kind of in a row, facing all the same way, and so I pointed out to Chris, and Chris saw it, and I pointed out to Paul, and Paul saw it, and then it stepped back out of the way again. Well, and a little bit later, it stepped back in the way again, and then back out again. Well, this went on for probably a half an hour, and all four of us got to see this thing multiple times. I went over and did a recreation this morning, and while Chris sat in the chair where he was at, and we estimated that it came up to about my chest, and that would mean it was probably 5 foot or maybe a little less, and it might have been rare, and we're not 100% sure, that we were never told. But one thing, a couple other things that happened last night, it's pretty amazing. Number one is there was a very laid-back, easy-going vibe here last night, and it appeared to me that it just had to do with the fact that they were very comfortable with us being here, and we haven't been here since last year sometime, and that they actually came in and hung around us, and they were active. It almost seemed like they were happy to see us, and one actually referred to me as Wista, and I thought that was pretty darn cool. And anyway, at one point I had one standing next to me, and we'd asked for a name, and the name he gave us was Friesen. And now I don't, I've heard that name before, but male, 37 years old. And he's pretty tall. I couldn't tell exactly, but I'd say probably 7.5, 8 foot range. He's a pretty big boy. And at one point, I put my hand out, and I asked him if he could touch my hand. And he did. Now, I could feel the electricity, kind of a charge feeling and an energy feeling. But where Chris was sitting, my background, the background was actually him standing there cloaked. And so all I could really see is distortion. I couldn't really see a whole lot. Well, where Chris was sitting, he had a little bit better angle, and my van was parked there where he actually had a solid background. And he said he could actually see the hand over top of my hand. And he would say, okay, he's touching your thumb with his thumb. I could feel that. He's touching your pointing finger. I felt that. He's touching your middle finger. I felt that. Your ring finger. I felt that. I could feel it when Chris would see his hand, his finger, touch my fingers. I could actually feel it at the same time. And that was pretty phenomenal. I've had that happen similar to that before. But the ones before, I believe they were younger ones. And this was an adult. Excuse me. 37-year-old adult male. And he stayed with us for about 15 or 20 minutes. He kind of stood there. And we had, I don't know if I can, maybe I can spin this around and show it to you. But we left the chair out last night, like we often do, to see if we can get somebody to come sit with us. But we used a different chair this time. There's more thunder. We used that aluminum frame chair that's sitting right there. Well, that shows up pretty good in the dark. And at one point, we could see that chair moving back and forth. Just a little bit, like maybe half an inch back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Well, we weren't sure whether that was caused by a distortion between us and the chair, or whether that was caused by one of them standing behind the chair and actually physically moving the chair. So later on, we actually got up and Chris stood behind the chair and moved it a little bit, and we could recreate that exact movement. So we kind of think that's what it was. But also last night, which is quite amazing, is they were actually a little more communicative than they've been lately. And we didn't even necessarily have to prompt them with questions. they would actually come out and say stuff. And one of the things I thought that they said was really, really cute was a little bit later in the evening, Chris got this little voice, sounded like a little boy voice, that said, "I'm sorry I hit your friend." Well, can you just imagine in the Sasquatch world where his mother or his father told, "You better apologize to those people. You threw that piece of wood and you hit him." So he came up and he apologized. Now, Paul is still pretty new at this, and he's not real good at getting the mind speak yet. He gets it a little bit. And I go middle of the road on it, but Chris is actually pretty good at it. He picks it up pretty well, and so he picked that up. And another thing he heard last night was he heard at one point they said, "We like your dog. He sees us." Well, actually, I'd already put him in the van for the night, and so I put him away when it gets dark. But he's afraid of them, and I can tell by the way he acts that he can see them. And so as soon as it starts getting dark, I usually put him in the van. But they told us they like him, and so there's a few other little odds and ends that went on last night, but it was an absolutely productive night. And well, this is the second year Paul's been coming out with us, and over on the other channel, back a couple months ago, back in late May, we were at another location, and he and I both had an mid-afternoon sighting. And that was probably his first aha moment. He went for about a year with us before he actually had an actual aha moment, as we like to call them. Well, this morning we were comparing notes after everything that happened last night, and Paul said yesterday, if he added everything up that happened, he had 6 aha moments yesterday. So we expect this rain to move on a little bit later. I'm not going to be able to get this uploaded until Thursday. But the rain will move off after a while, and it'll probably be a fairly nice evening. We'll see what happens tonight, and see what kind of excitement we can bring you. But it was just an absolutely phenomenal night last night. We got new friends, new names. Like I say, Paul got a piece of wood thrown at him and hit him in the head. And you know, we were all laughing about that later. He had to be sure and tell whoever that was whether that was Rern or who that was that did that, he had to be sure and tell him, and he wasn't mad at him. He knew he didn't do it on purpose. But, you know, people say that kind of stuff can't happen. Oh, yes, folks, it can. So as I always tell you, take care of each other and love each other. Well, I guess I'm not done yet. Right after I closed out that video, and I was sitting here trying to proof it, to make sure it was okay, and we had a real brief period of very heavy rain and heavy hail come through and a bit of wind. And holy cow, let me show you what happened. In order to do that, I gotta open the door and go outside. So let me get the door here. Let me go outside. The rain's pretty well let up now. Look at that tree over there by Paul's pickup. That big old oak tree. That thing broke and fell. Look at how heavy that thing is. Where it came from up there, and where it landed, and where Paul's truck is. If he ain't the luckiest man on the Mogollon Rim today, I don't know what he is. We back up a little bit, you can get a little bit better look at that. If that thing would have broke off and fell the other direction and landed on his truck, it'd have probably totaled that truck. Now, I have no idea what that piece of oak weighs, but I'm sure it was enough to do serious damage to Paul's truck. So he didn't even know it happened. I went over and told him it happened here a couple minutes ago, but let me give you a little bit more angle about it. That red lid on the ground there, by the way, came off of the cookie thing that was over there on the table by the van. And I ran out in the rain and rescued the cookies, and unfortunately I ate most of them. But anyway, I think Paul ought to go buy a lottery ticket today, because I think he probably would do pretty well. He certainly won the lottery on this one today, because that tree could have fallen the other direction, and we'd be having a whole different narrative right here. But so I guess with that, I've already told you to love each other and take care of each other. This is an alternative ending I'm going to add to this. And so give you one more look at that tree and where it broke off from and how close it was to Paul's truck. And I'll just tell you peace out.